All right, you're listening to 91.5 WUML Lowell Blues Deluxe, and I have J.W. Jones with me today. How are you,
I'm very
J.W.?
well. Very well. How are you?
Good. So tell me what J.W. stands for.
My full name is Josh Wynn Jones.
Josh Wynn Jones. But you go by the name J.W. Jones on everything, which is great.
Yeah, everybody calls me JW. Or J-Dub or J or Dubs, or there are all kinds of options.
That's good. So where'd you grow up, J.W.?
Born and raised right here in Ottawa, Canada, Ottawa, Ontario.
Before I ask you some personal questions about your history, tell me about the blues scene. I want to ask, that was the first question I wanted to ask you. What's the blues scene like in Canada, in Ottawa, in that area? What is it like for you?
Well, when I first started out, I actually started on drums, and I used to go to the blues clubs in town. We had two main blues clubs, and they were dedicated to blues. So every weekend you could see blues. There were blues jams. And so it was extremely vibrant when I first started. I used to go see a guy named Tony D play guitar, who later ended up in a band called Monkey Junk. And, and Sue Foley is from here in Ottawa. All the great blues players came through the Ottawa Blues Festival. But nowadays, things have changed quite a bit. There isn't quite as strong of a blues scene in Ottawa specifically, even though we do have some great blues artists. But across Canada, we have blues societies everywhere, and blues, a few blues clubs that are still dedicated to blues. And, the scene is pretty strong overall.
Yeah, I know Monkey Junk very well.
Yeah.
They're a great bunch of guys. I've spoken to them a few times in the past.
Nice. Yeah. Steve Mariner's started with me. He's on a couple of my first two records, actually.
Wow. Yeah. See that? Osmosis. You have all these people that are there to help you out to do that. And there's actually a blues scene in Canada, which is cool.
Yeah.
So growing up, how did you get into the music business?
Well, I had first I started on drums, like I mentioned, and I was listening to Led Zeppelin and Jimi Hendrix, stuff like that. And some friends of mine were showing me Stevie Ray Vaughan, and then I hear Stevie Ray Vaughan playing this Jimi Hendrix song. Pardon me, I'll turn that off. Playing a Jimi Hendrix song, and then I realized Jimi Hendrix was copying, Muddy Waters and B.B. King and all that kind of stuff. So that's basically how I went from the modern day blues artists, from let's say the 80s, back to the originators. And that's really where I started, and fell in love with B.B. King and Albert and T-Bone and Lightning Hopkins and Albert Collins and, all those guys. And that's really where it all started for me, was hearing that stuff.
And then you started out in drums. When did you convert to guitar or any other instrument?
Yeah, I pretty much went straight from drums to guitar. It was around the time I saw B.B. King. I was 15 years old, and I saw B.B., and it immediately made me want to switch to guitar. So I got home that night. I remember I had an acoustic guitar at home that I had been tinkering with, but at this point I was like, okay, I really, really want to learn how to play this thing. And I'm completely self-taught. I had a friend here in town who showed me a couple of chords, and otherwise I learned how to solo myself and then started the typical basement band kind of situation where I had some guys come over and play, and then before you knew it, we were playing at the school, and then I was looking forward to playing my first gig, and then so on and so forth, and here we are.
And many awards. You won quite a few awards over the years, I saw.
Yeah, I've done okay with that. The most recent was the International Blues Challenge 2020, the last one that happened. I was down there with another band I work with called Horojo Trio, Horojo, and we won the band category for the International Blues Challenge, and I won the guitar award that year.
Wow.
Yeah.
And Maple Blues Awards and all kinds of things over time. I mean, I'm looking at all this stuff. You won, you nominated, you won, you nominated. Incredible.
Yeah, I've been very, very fortunate. Absolutely.
I'll tell you one thing. I remember your first few records because they came out on Northern Blues. I remember that label.
That's right. Yeah.
Tell me about that. Tell me how you got on that label.
Okay. Well, initially, so what happened was I recorded my first album. It was actually based on winning some studio time through a guitar competition. And so I went in, recorded a bunch of tunes, and I sent a tape of that to Crosscut Records in Germany. And they immediately wanted to sign me. And I was only 20 years old at the time. So I didn't really understand how anything worked. I got a lawyer to look over the contract. And so I gave them the rights to the record in Europe. And then all of a sudden I had a call from Fred Litwin here in Ottawa. And he said, at first it was an email, and he said, "I'm Fred Litwin. I just moved to Ottawa from Toronto. I'm looking to start a blues label." And I thought, this can't be real. I mean, who starts a blues label in Ottawa, Canada? This is ridiculous. So I immediately was on the defensive, and I was kind of like, okay, sure. We met up, and, I quickly realized he was not kidding. He came from a tech background. He worked for Intel, and he was part of the big marketing team for the Pentium 3 chip in Asia. So he cashed in his stock options. He retired early and said, "I'm putting my time and effort into blues." And so I signed with him, and we've been friends ever since. I released my first several records on Northern Blues, as you mentioned. And Fred Litwin, what he did for the Canadian scene is he made a huge impact. I mean, he brought out artists like Rita Shirelli, Otis Taylor, who isn't necessarily Canadian, but Paul Reddick and all of these artists, and brought the attention to them that other labels just weren't doing at the time.
Then your second record, Kim Wilson's on your second record, which is crazy. You all of a sudden, your second record, you're bringing on the heavy hitters. How did that come about?
That's crazy, man. I mean, what happened there was I just really wanted to meet Kim and the T-Birds and get to know those guys. And so I remember back then, there was no social media. So it was all emailing people and calling people and, trying to connect. And I remember at some point someone gave me a fax number. So I sent a fax to Kim Wilson, and I said, "Hey, I would love to record with you, blah, blah, blah." Anyway, that didn't work out, but I ran into them in, what was the first thing the first thing that happened was I saw them in Syracuse, and I knew Ronnie James Weber, the bass player from Little Charlie and the Nightcats, who he had just left the Nightcats to be with the T-Birds. And he introduced me to Kim and everybody. And then he comes up to me, Ronnie comes up to me at the, right before they played this festival in New York State Blues Festival, I believe it was. And Ronnie comes up and says, "When we play Tough Enough, here's a backstage pass, go to the side of the stage." And I said, "Okay." He goes, "Yeah, just be there." And I said, "Okay." So I guess he talked to Kim Wilson, and they were going to have me sit in with the T-Birds. So they play Tough Enough. I'm ready. Okay. I go to the side of the stage. I go back, and Kim says, "Okay, you're going to come up and play with us." And then Kid Ramos looks at me and goes, "Okay, which guitar do you want to use? Do you want to use the Strat or do you want to use the Esquire?" And I had seen this incredible video of Kid Ramos playing the Esquire on a show called the Mike Bullard Show in Canada. If you look it up on YouTube, the Fabulous Thunderbirds Mike Bullard, it's a video clip that I posted that was recorded to VHS. And this song, they do a little Milton song called "I'm Trying." This song is one of the best, most incredibly performed blues songs I've ever heard in my life by any band ever in history. This band and the song and the way they play it is just absolutely perfect. It's perfection. Anyway, so I had seen Kid playing his Esquire on there. And so I said, "Okay, I'll play the Esquire." "All right, here you go." Gives me the guitar. We go up, and I said to Kim, right before we go up, I said, "So what are we going to play?" And he just looks at me and goes, "E." So he meant key of E. I said, "All right." So we go up and we played Sugar Coated Love and a rock and roll tune in E. And that was the beginning of it. And so I asked Gene Taylor if he would be on Bogart's Bounce, my second record. And Gene immediately said, sure, he'd love to. I'd fly him in from Texas. And Kim at first said he couldn't do it. He had too much going on, blah, blah, blah. So when he heard Gene was going to be on it, he called me one day. And remember, I'm like 20 years old and I'm getting a call from Kim Wilson, or 21 at that point. And Kim says, you know, I've been thinking about it and I'd like to help you out, man. I'd like to come and be on your record. And I said, well, you know, what's your rate? I don't think I can afford you. He goes, never mind that. You know, he told me what BB King paid him per day. And I was like, whoa, that's not even possible.
Budget. That's not in the budget.
That's not in the budget. And he said, but look, I don't expect that. Fly me in, cover my hotel. And if you can pay me, pay me. And if you can't, don't worry about it. We'll figure it out. And I was like, what? Like, how is this even possible? So I ended up paying him a few bucks anyway, because I found a way to do it. But long story short, like, you know, I was working at McDonald's. I wasn't really, you know, I had no money. My family didn't have money. I had to figure things out for myself. And some of that came from the advance from the record deal and things like that. But, you know, got Kim Wilson on that record. And that was a major turning point for me, because at that point I realized, oh, these are people, you know, you can just ask them. You can say, hey, do you want to record with me? The worst they can say is no. And here I am, you know.
Did you ever tell them you faxed them and never got a response? Did you ever tell them that?
I don't think I have, actually, maybe back in the day, but it's so funny because a fax, you know, it's like, yeah, it's just ridiculous.
And then he produced the third album. You got him to produce the third album. He must have liked you.
Well, I mean, he must have that. So that's another weird story. You know, we're about a year after the first one came out, you know, it was getting great reviews and things were going well. And I was getting bookings, and Blues Review magazine did a feature on me, stuff like that. And then Kim, we used to talk all the time on the phone, and he called me up and he goes, hey man, you know what? Maybe I should produce your next one. Like, get me to produce it. And I said, okay, sure, man, let's do it. And he goes, all right, yeah, I'll come up in Ottawa and, you know, we'll do it. And all right. So we got a bunch of songs together, and I took a different approach at that time and had horn players instead of featuring the harmonica so much. We talked about Steve Mariner. He's all over the first two records. And he's 4 years younger than me. So at that time I was, you know, going through some musical changes and thinking about things differently. And I wanted to get into that BB King and T-Bone Walker stuff with the horns. And so, so Kim ended up playing some harmonica on the second record third record, that is, My Kind of Evil. And we asked Colin James to be on it, who's one of my favorite singers in Canada, like just incredible. So, yeah, Colin agreed to it. We brought him in on it, and he did a couple tunes, and yeah, man, that was the third album. So as you can see, you mentioned having these different heavy hitters. Well,
the fourth album, you had another heavy hitter. Right? It's like it never stops. You keep bringing them on. I mean, David Fathead Newman on the fourth album. I'm going, oh wow.
Well, you're not going to believe this. You know who was supposed to be on the fourth album?
Who?
Little Milton.
Wow.
Yeah, he was confirmed to be on the record, and then unfortunately he passed away before we had the chance to record it. But I mean, what I really want people to know, and there have been rumors about this in the past, where even little Charlie, you know, like 6 months before he died, him and I were talking, and he told me things he had heard about me that he knew weren't true, but he told me that, like, you should know that this stuff is going around the scene. Like, people think that you're like a trust fund baby. And I was like, what are you talking about, man? There's literally, like, my mother died with nothing. My father is always struggling financially. Like, I do not come from money whatsoever. I have a very strange story about my upbringing. You know, I worked for everything myself. And just an example of that is talking to Little Milton. He said to me, you know, I charge whatever it was, like $5,000, $6,000 to be on the record. I said, with respect, you know, I'm sorry, I just can't do that. And they said, well, what can you do? And I said, you know, I think the best I can do is $2,000. And like $2,000 to Little Milton, that's not enough money, you know. And here I am at that point, 25 years old or something. And now at that point, I'm a full-time musician, right? And I get a reply back from his manager, and she says, Milton says he'll do it. Don't forget him when you're famous. And so,
see that?
Yeah. Just
like Kim.
Yeah,
I'll do
exactly.
it. I'll do it.
Yeah,
right?
Man. So people think I'm paying these guys like $10,000 a piece to be on my records. It's not like that at all. What it really is they're seeing a young player that's playing blues, and they want to support that, and they want to see it move forward. And here I am, 41 years old now, and I'm doing the same thing with my students. If I can help them in any way I can, I will, because it's the only way this can continue to move forward.
Right. You got to keep it going.
Yeah.
Because it's as they say out in the world, it's a dead music, but it's not. You hear it everywhere.
No,
you hear it everywhere.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So let's talk about Little Charlie. You have you had a great relationship with him, and you wrote a song that named after him. You named a song after him. Talk about that.
Sure. So when I first got into blues guitar, it was mostly B.B. King, Albert, Freddie, Jimmy Vaughn, Anson Funderburgh, all the Texas stuff, And then when I discovered the swinging style, the West Coast blues style, I heard Little Charlie, Junior Watson, Rick Holmstrom, Alex Schultz. Those were like my
the best
guys.
Those are the best. You can't
best.
beat those guys.
Yeah, exactly. Kid Ramos, of course, should be in there. And Little Charlie, I love them all for different reasons. Let me say that. I don't even have a preference because they're all so different and they're so amazing at what they do. But Little Charlie's playing spoke to me in a different way because he had more of the bebop stuff, and for whatever reason, I gravitated towards that, the swinging Charlie Parker lines and things like that. And I just loved his playing so much. And I ended up practicing and learning from listening to him and watching him so much that I wanted to do a tune called Batyology. So I called it Batyology, Batyology. And that's actually on my first record. And then before I know it, he's talking about this kid in Canada who recorded a song called Batyology on Dan Aykroyd's show, the House of Blues Radio Hour. And so I hear that and I'm going, wow, Little Charlie's talking about me like on the radio. This is crazy. At that time, I'm only 20 years old. And then from there on, I would run into him at clubs, and I'd go to Montreal to see him and Syracuse, and he started inviting me on stage. And then when he went into a soft retirement in 2007, I asked him to be on my record that I recorded in Hollywood. So with that story is also crazy because my real goal there was to get Richard Innes on drums. That's all I cared about. I just wanted to record Richard Innes. He's my favorite drummer in the world. And then Richard said to me, you're coming out here with an organ trio. Do you want a bass player on there too? And I said, well, we could get a bass player, I guess, on the session. And he goes, okay, I'll ask Larry. And I said, Larry Taylor? And he said, yeah, Larry Taylor. I said, okay. So the next day he calls me back and he goes, all right, we got Larry. I said, what? He's going to be on the record? He said he'll do it? Yeah, he'll be there. I'm like, whoa, what's happening? And then I thought, okay, this is too good. Now I'm going to ask Little Charlie. So I asked Charlie. And then I asked Junior Watson. Everyone says yes. I'm like, okay, we're going to have these four guys in the studio at the same time. What's happening here? And then from there, we recorded that. And then Charlie was on a couple festivals with us in Europe and Canada and the US. And he was like a guest with us while Rick Estrin took the Nightcats and did their thing. So it was just crazy timing. And Charlie and I became very close, with all those travels.
And then Hubbert Sullivan was on one of your records. It's like I said, I'm reading through and I'm going, he's got the who's who of blues all over these records that he's doing. And it's because you already said it. They respected what you were doing and they wanted to be part of that, to support what you were doing, which is cool. Tell me about Hubbert Sullivan. How did that come about with him?
Yeah, well, I mean, I can only expect that that's the reason because, like I said, I didn't pay any of these guys nearly what they were worth. So that's my assumption. I can't put words in their mouth, but that's the way I see it. So with Hubbert, I had seen him in Australia when I was playing at a festival there. And then I saw him again in, I think it was Saskatoon in Saskatchewan, Canada. And we were opening for him. I think this was 2004. And so we're opening for Hubbert, and I finished my set and I'm taking my amp off the stage. And the guitar player who's backing Hubbert kind of intercepts me and he goes, hey, can you leave that up there? And I said, oh, this is my amp. This is not a backline amp. And he goes, no, just leave it up there. I want you to come and play with us. And I said, okay, sure. So I put it back down. He goes, set it up right beside Hubbert. all right. I put it beside Hubbert, and I said, okay, so let me know when, you know, you want me to come up. He said, no, I want you up there the whole set. I said, what? I don't know the stuff. He goes, yes, you do. I said, all right. So I stood beside Hubbert the entire set and just played along. And the guy's name was BC Reed, Canadian guy. And he just saw, again, like a young player that loves blues and was like, hey, I'm just going to do this thing. Stay up here with us, you know? And that was the first time I met Hubbert. And from there, asked him if he wanted to record with us when we were in Memphis. And again, I had Richard Nance and Larry Taylor on the session, and he said yes. And
how can you beat that? How can you beat that?
Man, I know. And there's video footage of that. If you look on YouTube, you can find a couple things. Maybe they're on my Facebook page, but look up Sun Studios, J.W. Jones, Hubbert Sullivan, and you'll find it. But man, Hubbert was just all smiles and just like, it was just unbelievable. It was a blessing to have him in the studio.
Let's talk about Buddy Guy. You have a long history of having friendship with Buddy Guy and playing in Buddy Guy's Legends, and Buddy Guy coming on stage with you. Tell me about how that, the first time, and then how that's gone on when you first did. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, the first time I saw Buddy, I was 15 years old, and I was talking about the Ottawa Blues Fest, and he was the headliner, and just like, wow, I couldn't even believe what I was seeing. I was front row, 15, standing at the gate, just like watching every moment, you know. And before him was Luther Allison, which is a whole other story, who's just unbelievable. But yeah, skip ahead many, many years, and I'm playing at Buddy Guy's Legends. I'm upstairs in the dressing room, and I just went across the hall to brush my teeth in the bathroom, and I opened the door. I was going to get like a towel or something. I have toothpaste all in my mouth and toothbrush. And I open the door, and Buddy Guy's just slowly walking by, and he looks at me and he goes, hey, how are you? And I said, pretty good. Here I am brushing my teeth on what's going on here. So we head down and play the show, and Buddy watched the whole thing. And then I came off stage, and Buddy said, no, the security guard came up to me. That's what it was. Security comes up and says, hey, Buddy's leaving. He wants to talk to you before he leaves. And like, we're in the middle of a set. So the drummer's doing a solo. I'm like, all right, I'm going to let him continue soloing. I walk over, and Buddy says, hey man, I like the way you played that BB King stuff. I said, wow, thank you so much. You know, I know BB's his favorite guitar player, right? So I said, you know, I tried to throw some Buddy Guy in there too. And he goes, oh, no, it's all BB and T-Bone. I was like, wow, that's pretty modest, you know, from Buddy. And that was the first time we met. Then the time after that, he came up and sat in with us. And again, it was one of those crazy things that the sound guy comes up and says, hey, play a slow blues in A. My dad wants to come up and play with you. I was like, okay. So we did, and he came up and sang. And then he invited me to perform with his band in Ottawa. He said, come and play with us. We're going to be in Ottawa. Come and play with us. I said, really? He said, yeah, I want you there. I said, okay. So that was a crazy story too, because the next day I started thinking, like, we're on tour. I'm going to have to cancel the last 3 dates in Texas to be able to do this. But maybe he was just being nice. I don't know. So I wrote to his manager and said, hey, Buddy said this, you know, the other night. Is this for real? And he wrote me back. He goes, yeah, he wants you there. I said, all right. So I canceled the last couple of dates on that tour. I mean, nothing is more important than sitting in with Buddy Guy. I don't care what the gigs are, you know, like I'm doing this. And so we drove from Houston to Ottawa in 2 days, which is a long, long drive. And I was there, played with them for 2 nights, you know, the last couple tunes of each night. And it's all on YouTube. You can find all this stuff. And yeah, man, that's how it went.
That's a lot of miles in 2 days.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's, I mean, it's about 28 hours of driving.
Tell me about you. There's one award that I want to ask you about, the 40 under 40 award that you received. Tell me a little bit about that one.
Well, what's cool about that, and you know, music awards are cool, but music is weird because it's subjective, and I have such a problem with awarding art. You know, it's really, you can't say this guitar player is better than that guitar player. You can't say this album is better than that album. Like, what does that mean? You know, it's art. It's apples and oranges. You just, it's not really right that we do that at all, I don't think. And that's coming from a guy who's won these kinds of awards. So I'm not, no sour grapes there. It's kind of strange. However, with this award, you're talking about the 40 under 40. This is a business award. This is about developing business and having, being involved in the local community, whether it's charities and fundraisers and things like that. And so someone called me out of nowhere, a guy that I had only met one time, and he said, I want to nominate you for 40 under 40. And I looked into it and I said, look, this is all tech guys, this is tech and accountants and law firms and blah, blah, blah. Like, this is not for me. And he goes, yes, it is. You've built your business from the ground up and you've been successful. And so therefore you absolutely belong in here. And I was like, what? I don't know, man. I don't know. So he nominated me, and out of 250 nominations, I became,
you won.
Yeah. I was up there in the top 40 list. And it was really a true honor because it's based on numbers. I had to prove the growth of the business. And to me, that's something you can actually calculate. That's like, there's no denying numbers, whereas in music, it's like, who's a better guitar player, Little Charlie Beatty or Junior Watson? It's like, what? They completely sound differently. You can't do that. Or even more extreme, someone like Joe Bonamassa versus Anson Funderburg. I mean, like, these guys couldn't be any more different if they tried,
Yeah.
And how do you say one's better than the other? They're not better. They're just different. So that's why that award means actually more to me than any of them.
Wow. That's an honor to get something like that. And
yeah,
to actually do it in your hometown, to build a business in your hometown and get recognized for that. That's incredible. All right, let's talk about Sonic Departures, your latest record.
Yeah.
It came out last year, right? 2020?
That's right. It came out in 2020. I was one of the crazy people that thought it would be a good idea to release a record during a global pandemic. So, but the story is really part of that. I typically have released a record every 2 years since year 2000. And, 2020 happened to be the year that another one was due. But I thought, obviously, we're not going to do that. So I had just started this big band project, and we had done a couple shows. And then I thought, we had some tracks recorded. I thought, I'll put 2 or 3 of these songs on my website. This can be an EP, whatever. We'll just mix a couple tunes. That right after the pandemic hit. And I was like, okay. So we started doing it. I was working from my home, and the engineer, Eric Eggleston, was working from his home across town. I could hear his audio. I could see his screen, and I was on the phone with him. So it was just like being right beside him in the studio. And we start mixing this stuff, and I'm going, wow, this sounds amazing. I'm so excited. I want to let's do more. I don't want to just stop at 4 songs. Let's keep going. And he goes, well, we can make a whole record if you want. I said, yeah, let's do it, man. So we just kept going, man. And I overdubbed the vocals, and I did a couple extra guitar tracks. We did some weird loops and things like that on Blue Jean Jacket and Snatching It Back. And we just had fun with it, and I realized, hey, this is really a departure for me in terms of the style, both the big band side and the more modern techniques we were using. And the word sonic, I love it because it's not too many people use the word sonic.
Well, you have a 13-piece horn section too playing on it.
Yeah, exactly. It's the big band. This is a 17-piece band, it's the true old school big band with 13 horns, and yeah, man, we just went through it and did the whole thing. And it sounds enormous. It's got songs on it that I never would have recorded without those horns. And I love it.
How are you gonna recreate that when you go out and play them?
Well, we've been on tour. I just got home from 5 weeks on the road. We've been gone for a while, since the very beginning of October. And it's really cool, man, because, people ask questions like that all the time. They go, well, how do you do that? Well, the answer is you just don't have the horns there. So you just play it and it just sounds stripped down. There's nothing wrong with it. People don't really miss what they're not hearing because they're already in the room. They're getting the vibe from the band. And as long as you do it, convincingly, then it doesn't matter how you do it.
You got some local gigs coming up.
Local to you. Yeah.
Local to me.
That's right.
Let's talk about those.
All right. Let me just check where are my dates? Do you know the dates? Because I don't have them in front of me.
I don't have them in front of me, no.
Here, I think I do. One sec. Here we go. There we go. All right. Can you still see me? And hear me?
I can.
Okay, great. Yeah, so Thursday, November 18th, we are at St. George Country Store in St. George, Delaware. And then Friday, November 19th, we're at Boston Harbor Distillery. And Saturday, November 20th, we're at Chan's in Woonsocket, Rhode Island. Yeah. And all of those are available. The first one's sold out, but for Boston and Woonsocket, you can find tickets for those by clicking through my website. And
have you ever played there?
No, these are my first time for both of these shows.
Wow. Wait till you see Chan's. Chan's is a fabulous place to see a show. Cool. It's a Chinese restaurant is what it is. He's had it for over 40 years, and he's done jazz and blues in that restaurant live all those years. Dizzy Gillespie played there. I mean, all kinds of people have played. Yeah, all kinds of people have played there.
Wow, I didn't know that about Dizzy. I mean, I've been following Chan's forever. It's Nick Moss did a record there and released it and had a whole package with a little like Chinese box of stuff and part of the promo campaign. And ever since then I've been like, wow, that's like the cool place to play in Rhode Island.
John Hammond played there too and recorded a record.
Oh, cool, man.
I mean, it's an interesting place and it's got lots of history. So yeah, it's going to be fun.
Yeah. Well, I got to say, I just learned yesterday that we are competing with Joe Bonamassa, who's playing a few minutes down the road. So in Providence. So I'm really, really hoping anyone that's a blues fan that is not going to see Joe will come see us. And we need people to get tickets,
Well, it's a cheaper ticket than going to see Joe. Put it that way.
That's right. That's right. And we're going to do things that he doesn't do, like we have a whole different show. And I really hope people will get their tickets as soon as possible. And this band we don't just stand up there and play songs. We put on a great show. It's honestly something to see. High energy. We play all the traditional stuff, some more modern, blues rock, and we just cover all the bases, man.
That live album you put out was killer. You should put another one out.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, we do a bunch of tunes from that, like Moaning at Midnight. We do that live, and yeah, we really try to mix it up.
Here's another question. Any thoughts on bringing the whole 13-piece band or 17-piece band out and recording a live record with the band? You look at it, you're smiling thinking about it.
Oh, I'm smiling thinking about it. I'm crying thinking about the expense, but well, you know what? Anything is possible, man. We are going to do big band shows, but the reality is with that many mouths to feed, they have to be theaters or festivals, and so that's kind of where we're at with that idea. You
think down the road maybe you'll be able to do that somewhere where you can record a live show with the entire band, because you did it with the record, and you want to get some kind of archive of that period of time with the band like that.
Yeah, man. I mean, absolutely, it's something I'd love to do. Like
even somewhere local to Ottawa where you could do it, but. I just thought I'd ask the question because, you went out on a limb with the new record to make it sound that way and bring in the whole 17B sound.
Yeah.
Why not try to do it somewhere?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. When things start to open up again, I'm hungry to try new things, and that's definitely on the list.
Well, how do people find out about you? Do you have a website? Social media? Just let the audience know. I'm going to let you go because I know you have a hard stop here.
That's okay. Yeah. Find me at jw-jones.com. Join the email list. That's the best way to know when we're actually coming to your town. Because as some people are aware, social media, like you can be following me. It's JW Jones Blues on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. But the problem with social media is you actually don't see everything that gets posted. So if I say I'm coming to Boston and you live in Boston, you may never even see that post. So
that's why I say you need to go through the blues societies in the areas and promote it there if you can.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the best way to find me. JW Jones Blues on social media and jw-jones.com for the website.
I love that T-shirt you're wearing, Blues Way.
Yeah, here, I'll tell you a quick story about that. So I met Jimmy Vaughn for lunch the other day in Austin, Texas. And I thought I'd be clever and wear a cool vintage shirt, you know? So I get there and we're talking. I said, I open up my hoodie and I said, hey, have you heard of this label? And he goes, yep. They turned me down. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, Bluesway, ABC. They turned me down when I was 15 years old. I flew out there with my manager and they said, why should we sign you? That's ridiculous.
Wow.
Anyway, it's just so funny. I mean, you've heard the story about Alligator turning Stevie Ray Vaughan down. So it's like these labels, they lost like some of the best opportunities they'd ever have.
Where'd you get the T-shirt? I'd like to get one.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm a small guy, so I can't go and buy, like, if I'm in Memphis or I'm in New Orleans or anything, I can't just buy a shirt off the rack. It's not going to fit me right. So I had a bunch of shirts custom made for me. Wow. And so I took these logos off the internet. I'm risking getting sued here. But I just took these logos off the internet and sent them to a company and they just make the shirts for me. So I've done a whole bunch of old labels and, yeah, it's fun because like this is the only Bluesway ABC shirt in the world.
Now BB recorded for
right.
ABC.
That's right. Yeah, man.
Well, JW, thank you very much for taking some time out of your busy day. I really appreciate it. And I am going to play Sonic Departures all the way through after the interview. So
that's amazing. Great.
And I do that all the time. Every week we do a new record.
Okay.
And I like to do it around the interviews to try to promote what you're doing. And again, you're going to be at Chan's on November 20th. Everybody, check that out. If you want to go see JW do his thing, Chan's is a great place to see him.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me, John. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
All right, brother. Take care.
Thank you. All right.